Shel C from PaperOcotilloStudio, and today I'm sharing with you another Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos project. This was the original one that I made for the hop that was last week, and I will put the link to the hop video in the end the end screen if you haven't watched it yet. All about Day of the Dead, and it was a really good hop. There's a lot of really interesting people participating with beautiful projects. So I bought this fake pumpkin at my local grocery store when I was grocery shopping. I don't know what he was doing in the grocery store, but it was $4.99, and it's made out of some kind of styrofoam, I think, with a rubbery coating on the outside. It's a little banged up, but then a real pumpkin would be anyway, because they're outside all the time, and then they pick them and they throw them in a whatever, a truck or something. So the first thing I did is I wanted to make it look a little bit more realistic because it was very plain white. It's just got a simple coating over it. So I used some pit pins, which are a India ink pin from Faber-Castell. They're brush pins, excuse me. And I went in the creases of the pumpkin, starting at the top and coming down, and I blended that with my finger because that type of ink doesn't dry instantly, but once it is dry, it's permanent. So I just used like a mustard yellow and kind of a green gold and a medium brown tone, and I just went in the little creases and I blended it with my finger up and down to make the pumpkin look more like it really would. I was planning on doing some splatters on it, but I forgot, I guess. But my original idea was to put some splatters on around the top and bottom too, to kind of make it look like dirt, maybe a little bit, or I don't know. I just wanted to make it look more realistic. The stem on it is made out of plastic, but it does look very realistic. I didn't have to alter it at all. It has bright tones and dark tones of brown, and then it has that little curly thing that pumpkins have on it. So then I started to make my design, and I'm using a very soft leaded graphite pencil to draw on it. And the only problem with this that I'm having is that when I need to erase, which I am an eraser type of person, I don't like messy lines. I was having a little bit of trouble erasing it. So I ended up using some acrylic paint to kind of touch it up at the end. But what I didn't realize until I looked at this video is that it's really hard to see. It's hard for me to stay in the camera frame because of the 3D nature of this item. So I hope that you can see what I'm doing well enough to understand. If you would like to do something like this with a real pumpkin or a fake pumpkin that you can keep, for a long time. I mean, the real pumpkin, obviously, it's going to rot. So you can't keep it forever, but it's a fun project to do on a real pumpkin too for Halloween. Of course, keep in mind that Day of Dead is not Halloween, and it's not a costume. It's really more a cultural thing. Because the sugar skull makeup has become so popular, people are associating it with Halloween because it's about the same time, around the same time, and it's not the same. The Dia de los Muertos is about honoring the dead, about remembering the people who have passed on, the pets who have passed on. Usually there's an altar set up, which is really just usually a table with like a orange colored tablecloth on it. There's food left out, water left out, and things like that. Photographs, looking at the photographs, a photograph album or photos in frames. It's really has nothing to do with Halloween. It's a completely different holiday. So keep that in mind if you're not familiar with the holiday. I'm not Latina. I'm as white as they come, but I do live in Arizona, which it has a very large population of Latino people, and this holiday is very important. There's a parade downtown that ends up in a big celebration at the end with live music and it's a party celebrating and thinking about the people who have passed on. which I think I honor this holiday because I think it's better and more realistic to be celebrating our loved ones who've passed rather than sitting around being sad. You know, it's better to do it that way. I also think that having a wake is a lot more fun than having a funeral, and I hope that when I pass on that they have a wake and not a funeral and everyone doesn't sit around in black crying because I lived a good life. And yeah, it's sad, but it's not, it's just a part of life. It's the circle of life. It's what happens. It's reality. So, that's what I'm saying. I think this is a beautiful, beautiful holiday. I think it's wonderful. And I've adopted it as something that we do in my family. Um, I use a tray that I painted, and we make a little altar, put it on the kitchen table with, Roquefort cheese for my dad, and pepperoni for Teddy who passed away, and um, clean water, candles. Usually decorate with marigolds and other bright colors. Bright colors because it's a celebration and not a sad thing. So this decoration that I'm making right now will sit next to my altar this year. It'll also just sit out on the table as a decoration for the whole rest of the month. But I drew the sugar skull or calavera type design on the pumpkin with the very soft pencil. It's the graphite colored or gray colored Stabilo all pencil, which is the water reactive one. I thought it would be more easy to erase um, because it's very soft and it's easy to draw on something weird like this. This is rubbery or plasticky. It has a strange texture on it, so it worked great. It drew on there very well. And then I'm using the acrylic paint, which this is that big set, big 24-piece set from Arteza, and so it just has a lot of colors. I can get a lot of colors, and I'm using purple and orange and red and yellow and bright blue, bright green, those type of colors to paint in my design. I've got flowers, I've got flourishes, I've got the traditional skull shape, which has that dark underneath the cheekbones. Sorry, I've been sick. It's not going away very quickly. It's got the dark eye sockets and the dark shape where the nose would be, which is kind of like an upside down heart. And um, those were done in black. And then all the decorations, the painted on decorations, are done in color. And I'm using some fine paint brushes. These are the ones that have the acrylic handle, which I really like because I tend to throw them in the water and leave them. And yeah, I do that a lot. I'm a brush abuser. So I like these ones with the acrylic handles. And I'm using like very, very fine tipped ones. I started out with the flat brush to go inside those dark areas that were going to have a lot more paint, but then I switched to the round tipped fine ones. So the design you paint, they're all kind of similar, but they're all different. If there's something that you wanted specifically on there, you could certainly put it on there. There's no right or wrong to doing this. It's just decorating the skull and putting some bright colors on it to change it from a very dark and spooky thing to something that's more bright and colorful and cheerful. So I've seen everything from, I mean, if it was supposed to be a specific skull, you could put something on there that person liked. But the general design is out there. If you search on Pinterest for sugar skull, you'll find tons of stuff. And if you don't feel comfortable making up your own design, then you can find something out there that you think is attractive, and you can do this yourself on a real pumpkin or a fake pumpkin like this. Styrofoam, rubber, weird. fake thing. It looks realistic though. I think it looks good. It looks like a white pumpkin, which there's a lot more of those being grown these days. I saw also real white pumpkins in the grocery store as well. So I think that's pretty cool. You could also carve something like this into a standard pumpkin and make a jack-o'-lantern out of it. If you have some small carving tools, you could do that too. And I've seen people do that too. But of course, I wanted to make something that I could keep, and a real pumpkin just isn't going to last. So if you put if you don't cut the pumpkin and you put acrylic paint on it, a real pumpkin, it'll last a lot longer. But we have these animals called javelinas, which are a type of wild, people would say they're pig, but they're not related to pigs, but they kind of look like pigs. They are blind and they use, I mean, they're not completely blind, but they don't see well. And they use their noses to find stuff. And if I put a pumpkin outside, even overnight on Halloween, they come and eat it because they like pumpkin, I guess. And I guess that Halloween is a big buffet. When I first moved here about 17 years ago, I thought I was going to have some beautiful, seasonal pots out front. I was going to put flowers in them, and it was around the fall time, and so I bought marigolds and chrysanthemums, and I put them in these beautiful terracotta pots out front. And the first night that they were out there, those javelinas came and they ate the tops off of all the flowers. So after that, I just realized that the javelinas think that anything yummy that I put out there is going to be a buffet for them. So I don't really put out pumpkins except for just right at Halloween on the night of it, right as we're doing candy. And then after that, I bring them back in. Or else I throw them back in the wash, cut them up and throw them in the wash back behind for the javelinas when, this season is over. I have no need for that pumpkin anymore. So the next thing that I did, after I got all the acrylic painting done, I thought it still needed a little bit of, I don't know, I liked it. I like black lines around things, and so I decided to use my Posca pens, which are, of course, a paint pen, an acrylic paint pen, which writes over pretty much anything. In fact, I haven't found something that it won't write over, but if you put it on something slick that's non-porous like glass, it will wipe off. I mean, it'll stay on there as long as you don't wash it, but then if you wash it, it'll come off. So, and I think that's the way of any acrylic paint. So I use my fine tip black and my fine tip white pens to go around the designs and then also to add like a white highlight to the designs, which I think is attractive. And then I did get out some of my colored medium point pens just to touch up some of the areas of color. The acrylic yellow paint, it's just translucent. It's the way yellow paint is. There's not really a yellow paint unless there's one that has a lot of fillers in it that is not translucent. So in the center of the flower at the top of the forehead, you could see my graphite lines through the paint, and so I used the yellow marker, which is opaque, which means it has fillers in it, and colored that back in so that you couldn't see those lines. I didn't think the lines looked good peeking through the yellow paint. And I think I also used a green marker to kind of fill in some of the green areas. That paint was a little bit opaque, a little bit translucent also. So that is what I'm doing. It's not a complex process. It's just something that you would do for fun and to make a really cool decoration for a holiday that you might decide to celebrate or that you might already be celebrating. Because why not? Have a celebration. There's never a bad time to celebrate something, even if it's death. And I also used the white pen to kind of touch up a few areas as well where I couldn't get the lines to erase quite as well as I would like them to. So you can put some of that white paint from the Posca pen onto a little brush with water, a little moist brush, and paint in things with it too. It's quite opaque, like a titanium white would be. So I do wish that this video I had just been able to lay the pumpkin down and do all of it in frame really well, but it just didn't work out that way. I thought that's what I was doing when I was filming, but I wasn't, obviously, and it's just because of the nature of the 3D shape. It's just hard to film it, I guess, and I'll remember that. So what I did end up making for the hop is a pair of shrink plastic Calavera Pet, a cat and a dog earrings. So if you haven't watched that one, you can watch that one too. And I have a few other videos on here that are about this holiday, even when I made my altar tray, but the video is really not very good on that one. I didn't talk, and I played music through the whole thing because it was one of the very first ones I made on my channel, and I was too shy to talk at the time. Now I just chatter the whole time. I just talk and talk and talk and talk, and I'm not talking to anybody. There's nobody here except for all of you, but it's become very easy to do that for me now. But back in the day when I first started my channel, I did not like to talk. So it's kind of funny how things change. So these flourishes near the nose area are purple. They are dioxazine purple, which is a very dark color. And so on the video, they kind of look black. But when you see the pictures at the end, you'll see that they're purple, which is my favorite color. But I maybe should have mixed that color with a little bit of white because it really is a dark color. And it's one of the only true purples in the acrylic paint blends. You know, the real paint doesn't have a lot of purples in it. It's got a fuchsia and it's got this dioxazine. You'll find some other blends, obviously, that they've made, but the real colors that used to be made with things that we now know are poisonous, like cadmium, those true colors, the original colors, there's not really purple other than this one. And fuchsia, which is a purpley pink. So that's just a little bit of interesting knowledge for you there. Purple has long been neglected. I don't know why. It's the best color. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and my nattering on about whatever silly thing comes into my head. If you did like it, please give it a thumbs up. Leave me a comment or question below. Tell me if you think you might start celebrating this holiday, or if you already do, and tell me about how you celebrate it if you already celebrate. And that would be interesting to me. I do read all the comments and I respond, although usually I don't have a lot to say. But I do respond to the comments and I respond to the questions if there is one. Also, share this on your Pinterest or your Facebook if you think somebody would enjoy doing this project. And that would be awesome. That helps my channel. Links to what I used on the project will be below the video under a title, Materials Used and Links. And those links will probably mostly be to Amazon unless I find a better place somewhere else. But I do get affiliate pennies if you use my links on Amazon, so I always appreciate that. So to finish off the pumpkin, I put some silk leaves, which are from, those plastic silk stem things with flowers on them, because I thought it needed something at the top that was green. So that's it for me. Thanks. Bye-bye.